Welcome to The Blitz, a podcast from Coram Deo Church. The Blitz is all about tackling tough topics head-on at full speed. Are you ready? Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of the day it is that you happen to be checking out this podcast. My name is John, pastor of Coram Deo Church, and I will be your host, as always, here on The Blitz. Well, guys, hope you're doing well. I know it's been a while since we've dropped one of these episodes. We have been super busy, but here we are. We're getting back to it. And this episode is a little bit unique in that it's meant to be an introduction or a primer to the episodes that are going to be coming during June. This is a primer to our Pride Month episodes of The Blitz that are going to be dropping very soon here. And so I wanted to, let you know what the topics are that I'm going to be addressing, and also take a moment to just explain and respond to why in the world would we take time to address this particular issue? Why would we take a month to address the issue of LGBTQ ideology and that community? So I want to ask you to imagine something with me for a moment. No, I'm not being John Lennon, but I want you to think about something. I want you to imagine that you lived in a world in which 1 month out of the year was set aside for the public display and the public celebration of racism. That 1 month out of the year, flags that represented a harmful ideology of racial superiority and racial inferiority. I want you to imagine that there were parades in celebration of this, that there were flags that were lining the streets, that there were people proudly wearing shirts that indicated their alignment with this ideology and this movement. And again, think of it as this is a racist movement, okay? I want you to think, what if you lived in that world and pastors did not respond to it? So this is happening all around. All right, it's affecting people who are in the church. They're going to work. The places of work are celebrating this. They've got the flags up. They're being asked to participate in it. When they're not willing participants in these celebrations, they're questioning what's wrong with them. I want you to imagine what would be weirder for a pastor to address the public celebration of racism, or for a pastor to not address the public celebration of racism. Which one of those would be more different? And I'm inclined to think that you know that there would be a serious issue if an entire community, an entire culture was celebrating racism and a pastor said nothing, right? If he just said nothing, that would be wrong. One of the marks against the church and the civil rights movement was their lack of speaking up. And so you know intuitively that something would be wrong. Either that pastor would be a coward, or that pastor would maybe not personally, publicly be opposed to this ideology, or something would be off if a sin as heinous as racism was being publicly celebrated in a community for a month and a pastor said nothing. That the problem is with the pastor not saying anything, right? Okay, and so just apply that logic to the world that we actually live in. The world in our community, right, today sets aside an entire month to promote and celebrate an ideology that is absolutely opposed to God, to creation, to nature, to human flourishing. It is an ideology that destroys people. That's what the pride ideology is. And there are going to be flags representing this everywhere. You'll see people speaking up about it, right? You're going to be inundated with it. And so as a pastor, right, who is supposed to protect the flock and help equip the flock and teach the flock and train the flock, like, it's my job to help you think through these issues and understand why these things are wrong and what it is that this ideology does to a community or to a people. So if you're wondering why in the world would we address this, why would we set aside time? Why would we take 4 episodes, which is, by the way, what I'm going to do, 4 episodes during June to address this issue. Why would we do it? Because this ideology harms people, right? This ideology harms people, and it is celebrated widespread. And so therefore, you need to be informed, and you need to understand, and you need to be prepared to navigate this crazy world that we live in. Okay? So I would propose to you, the issue is not the pastor who addresses this, right? What is genuinely concerning to me is the pastor who says nothing about it during the entire month. The pastor who refuses to call sin, sin, who refuses to speak the truth, who refuses to protect his people from a harmful ideology, right? The pastor who refuses to do that has a serious problem. And I know that this podcast for me is intended for people who are part of our church, who are part of Coram Deo Church. But I know that there's people who listen to this who don't go to our church. And I would just encourage you to gently, respectfully ask your pastor, are we going to address this issue? Right, the whole world is celebrating it. Flags are everywhere. We have an entire month dedicated to it. Will we address this as a church? Will it be addressed, right? That's an important thing. So that's what I'm trying to do during this podcast, is to address this, and we'll be addressing it other ways as well during the month. But this is one way that we can do it. So there are going to be 4 episodes coming here shortly. We're going to be dropping 1 a week. And here are the topics. We're going to talk about pride flags and church discipline. We're going to talk about sodomy and societal suicide. We're going to talk about the insanity of the LGBTQ ideology. And the last episode is going to be titled, Are You Even a Biologist? Right? And you probably know where that is going. So those are 4 things that we're going to be exploring together. Again, those are going to be dropping should be dropping once a week once we get into June. And one of the things I wanted to also invite you to do is to submit your questions, because I know there's lots of questions regarding this issue. There's a need for clarification. There are, how do you navigate this stuff? There's all sorts of questions. So I want to open this up to you to submit your questions. And the 5th episode that I will drop will be responding to your question. So if you have a question about Pride Month, you have a question about LGBTQ ideology, how to navigate, how to respond, what's going on. If you've got a question, feel free to submit that question to pastor@coramdeochurch.org, right? pastor@coramdeochurch.org. And I will get that email, and I will look at those questions. And if we can kind of group those questions together and kind of and identify the themes, I will then be releasing an episode in which I respond to those questions. Okay? So Pride Month is right around the corner. Episodes are coming. Stay tuned. And you know what? Be joyful. Be joyfully defiant. Do not be afraid to speak the truth, because here's what we know. Christ is Lord. All right? Okay, so episodes are coming. Get your questions in, and we will be talking to you soon. All right, take care.